cooking, grilling, getting hot and hotter, sous vide and chilling from fire and water.
Welcome back to the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. I'm Darren. I'm your host. Of course, today we got a special guest. He's been on the podcast before, and just not on the video side. He's been on with Troy Smith, T-Roy Cooks. We introduced Bob Healy back when the GrillGun was just being released on a Kickstarter. So Bob Healy is the owner of GrillBlazer, which makes the GrillGun and Su-VGun. Welcome, Bob. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, Darren, thanks very much for having me on the show. I am, as you said, Bob Healy, and I am the founder of GrillBlazer and the inventor, the developer of the high-powered torches that I call the GrillGun and the Su-VGun. And I'm an engineer by training. My background is product development of all different kinds, and I kind of got tired of working for other people, and I thought I should start my own company and do something I enjoy. And I enjoy charcoal grilling, and I enjoy cooking meat, sous vide, and it just seemed like the perfect thing to do, to develop the perfect torch to be able to do that with. So that's how it all started. And because I have been in business, run my own business and run other businesses, I figured might as well do it for myself and start something entirely new from the ground up. So that's where it came from.
So you were an engineer. What type of engineer were you? I mean, did you work for a company developing products? Did you a civil engineer? What did you do for a living?
Well, training, college was electrical engineering. So I spent quite a bit of time developing consumer products. And initially, right out of college, I worked for a fishing company called Lowrance Electronics. I don't know if you've ever heard of them before, but they make fish finders. And so I was one of the, right out of college, I was a design engineer, a manufacturing engineer first, and then design engineer working for them, building. Actually, I was the developer of the very first LCD fish finder that Lowrance came out with. And one thing led to another, and I left that company, started my own company called Design Electronics, where I did more product development, and then built another company called Pinpoint, where we did high-tech trolling motors. And I was the principal engineer really in not only the vice president of engineering, but the principal design engineer, and built a company up around fishing, and moved into, after that, into Brunswick, developing electronics for boats and products for boats and mergers and acquisitions. And then I went back out on my own as a vice president of engineering for another company called Murphy Electronics, doing engines and gas compression for the oil field, and ended up starting my own company again. And this time, well, I did work for American Electric Power, AEP, and did contract work in developing of wind power for independent power producers. A lot of stuff, a lot of engineering and business background. So when I left them in 2016, I went home and I said, what do I really want to do myself? And that's when the idea of, I really just enjoyed barbecuing and cooking outside. And I thought I should just develop the very perfect torch, something that's going to last forever, look really cool while you're doing it. Did a lot of market study, asking friends and family what would make the perfect torch to do what I was accustomed to doing. I'm accustomed to using a weed torch. People who are familiar with that process, you can just go down to Harbor Freight and buy a weed torch and you can light your charcoal grill, but it's those things wear out in about 3 weeks, and they are no good for sous vide cooking. And the igniters, the quality of the products, they're really just junk. And so I thought, make a perfect torch. Let's do it right. So that's what I ended up with, the grill gun.
Hey guys, I wanted to pause right here and let you know we are doing a giveaway. Thanks to Bob Healy from GrillBlazer. We're going to do a giveaway for a free sous vide gun or grill gun, your choice. All you have to do is go to Facebook and like us on the Fire and Water Cooking Facebook page, and also like the GrillBlazer Facebook page. But you also need to comment on this video down below. Just tell me why you think you deserve a free grill gun or sous vide gun. But make sure you go to the Fire and Water Cooking page on Facebook, and also like and follow the GrillBlazer Facebook page as well. All right, guys, I'll see you on May 10th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time for our big sous vide or grill gun giveaway. Now, let's go back to the podcast. So, yeah, I've heard a lot of people try to compare the Harbor Freight torch and other devices that they've kind of hodgepodge together to compare it to what the sous vide gun or the grill gun can do. But I've seen them both, and I can tell you there is a big difference. And you're right. There's no comparison to the quality of what you put together and what you designed with all of the functionality and the safety precautions that are in it than a $20 Harbor Freight, weed burner torch. I mean, if people want to pay that, $20 and have something that's only going to last them a couple months and not do an efficient job and, be very unsafe, you're always going to have those people. But I was one of the first ones to see the grill gun in, working when I saw one of Troy's videos, T. Roy Cook's, Troy Smith. And that's what really got me excited about it, because when I first saw it, I saw the potential for it to be used in sous vide right away. I mean, that's what caught my eyes. Not only can something like that be great for lighting your grill, but also for searing food for sous vide, because of course that's what I was doing. I was combining smoking and barbecue and grilling with sous vide, and that's why I got you on my podcast pretty much right at the beginning when I first started it, because I was really excited about the product. So yeah, I mean, I was on board with the with your crowdfunding right away. So how did you start from the beginning when you sat down and said, I see a need, and what take us through the process of drawing it up on a napkin and then putting it into fruition?
Yeah, it was interesting because the idea of the grill gun has never been done before. So I started talking to first my son-in-law, one of my sons-in-law, and I said, what would it take to have a torch that people would want to buy? Because the whole weed torch idea has been around for decades. People light charcoal and wood with torches all of the time. But I have cooked on charcoal grills and lit grills in front of friends and with company, and everybody just think it's just kind of odd. It's like they see me do it and they just don't run down to Harbor Freight or go online and buy a torch to do the same thing. And so I started out by saying, what would it take? So I envisioned, maybe because those online torches are so inexpensive, I figured it's just the idea is bend something up that works and it's sort of ergonomic and it would actually function. Let me see if I can demonstrate it here in front of the camera, where you can hold it in your hand, whatever it is. I didn't know it looked like a gun at the time. Hold it in your hand and aim it at the grill and have it be comfortable. Instead of a weed torch, which is a big long pole that you kind of have to hold up in the air and point down at your grill in order to get it lit up. And so it was determined right then it was going to have to look like a pistol of some sort. So I decided, all right, well, what kind of pistol would it look like? Would it be a ray gun? You know, just the whole idea of throwing out pistol designs. And so in a very short time, my son-in-law and my youngest son and my middle son, they all said, it needs to look like your pistol. And so I thought, well, how am I going to find that? And I started looking at torch manufacturers and calling them from all around the world. And nobody had anything that looked like a pistol or that would operate that way. And so so that was in June of 2015. Yeah, 2016. Sorry, not even June, December of 2016. I was thinking, all right, what needs to be done isn't done by anybody. So I'm an engineer, and I've always hired engineers to do cool stuff. Might as well teach myself to do it too. So I bought a piece of software called SolidWorks. It's 3D modeling software, and I taught myself to use it. And I got my my 38 semi-automatic pistol out and laid it on the counter in front of me and started modeling it. And when I got something that looked sort of like a pistol, it took me probably, I want to say 3 months of first teaching myself to do the software and then building a model around it, and then actually creating a product that one day in April, I guess it was, of 2018, I walked out into the room and I showed it to my wife, and she said, I think you actually have something there that people will buy. And I fired it up, and it was just cool. And so I started showing my prototype of it to friends, and they just, every one of them wanted one. And every one of them said, I can see that that'll really sell. And it's so much different than just a piece of bent aluminum or steel, in that I made sure that when I put it together, I started with a list of everything that it had to have in it. And I didn't know how to get those things in there. I just knew that those were the functions that they need to have. One of them, for instance, is it always has to light. So when you buy an piezoelectric starting torch, they will light for a good 2 weeks before they burn up, and then they're really no good anymore. And that's what you get when you pay $40 or $50 for a torch. They're just a piece of garbage, and they're almost throwaway, and people are used to that. So it came from the inspiration of saying that you actually have to be able to hold it like you would hold a pistol. So might as well make it look like a pistol. And I made them in black, and I made them in white and silver and other colors, painted them, looked at them, and just landed on the color and style and shape and art associated with the grill gun. So the design features that are in it came from years of having used garbage torches and been frustrated with them, and saying that we actually have to do something better than that. So that's how it came about. The inspiration was I had to have a product that would light the grill. Oh, but Darren, there was one other thing. It had to be miserly on fuel. What does that mean? If you here's a Su-VGun. I'm just holding.
Well, that's one of the things that people asked when I first started showing people and doing videos on it, on the prototype that you sent me. People were automatically assuming that it would dump out a can of that propane in like the third use. And I was surprised how long those cans of propane last with that.
Yeah. So that was one of the design criteria. Okay, if you're going to make it portable, so that was a design criteria. It had to be able to be hooked up to a big propane tank, but it also had to be entirely portable like this is. And so I had to do research and figure out, all right, what does it take to keep from dumping one of those cans out? Because if you put a 500 or 400,000 BTU torch, you know the cheap torches out there, it's just got such a huge output orifice that it needs a ton of propane to make it work. So you can get the kind of heat that this generates, but you do it through using so much propane that you maybe get 30 seconds runtime on it before the can freezes over. So I had to design that out. So I had to figure out how to increase the heat associated with the amount of BTUs that I was getting out, and create a torch that would actually get the charcoal hot enough to light almost instantaneously. I can light my charcoal grill in 30 seconds, and I've lit other ones in 15 to 20 seconds. It requires a tremendous amount of heat. So the torch itself has to have that capability. And I went through many iterations before I even knew it looked like a gun, just in the designing of a torch that was capable of developing that heat. And so I learned through trial and error that unless I put out in the neighborhood of 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit of heat, I wasn't going to light that charcoal right up. And so that's how it came about, is just engineering principles set out criteria for what the torch actually had to work like, and then design it until it was aesthetically pleasing. And I knew I had a winner when I showed it to people, and everyone wanted to buy the prototypes that I had.
Yeah, I was one of them, because when I got one to try out, even though it was, you could tell it was it was a pretty put together with the what do they call those? The printer.
Yeah.
It was you could tell it was not a final product, but it worked so well. The internals worked so well. The plastic was just more, it was kind of a cheapy plastic thing, but it was the internals that worked really well to me, and I could tell right away, because I lit my, I have a Kamado grill and a ceramic grill, and that's the whole thing with that. You either got to you use a little wood fire starters or Weber fire starters, or a torch where you got to sit there and hold it, or the one that blows hot air at it, and you're still sitting there holding it for a good 5 minutes or so before the fire is big enough that you can even walk away from it. But I took that thing and lit my Kamado grill in a matter of 2 minutes. I was within 5 minutes I was cooking. I mean, that was I could never have done that before. And it was just amazing to me. And then I was a big proponent as soon as I played with that thing, and people always don't seem to understand how hot that thing got, and how they were telling me, oh, you're going to blow your grill up. And it's like, no, because it's concentrated right on the coal. It's not getting all over the whole grill. So, but it's so concentrated that it does get that charcoal lit so quick. You're cooking within 5 minutes. You're cooking.
Right. I was talking to a guy who's the owner of a grill company, and he's saying, you're just going to get the thing so hot it's going to burn the paint off my grill. And I just showed him right on his grill. No, you're not doing that. That heat is focused right on the charcoal, and you light that charcoal real quick. And likewise, you can then aim it around the grill and bring the whole grill up to temperature, which is what I do. I always use it to flame off the grates where I cook the food, and then wire brush it down and bring the whole thing up. And literally, from the time I walk out the door to the time I'm cooking food is 3 minutes. And I do that every week.
Yeah. I mean, that's me too. I recently bought a PK grill, which is the cast aluminum. And I've done some videos using actually, I use the Su-VGun more than the GrillGun, because it's smaller and a little bit more compact. So it's easier for me to grab and just use it. I stand back a little farther on some of the lump charcoal that sparks. But I mean, people just say, oh, you're going to blow your grill up. It's like, no, you don't understand. It's concentrated right on that charcoal. Those grills can take 8 to 900 degrees Fahrenheit, on a consistent basis. So it's not getting up to that. The charcoal is getting all the full brunt of that, the BTU. So, and I'm literally within 2 minutes I'm cooking. I do the same thing. I clean the grates off, with the flame, scrape it a little bit, and then I just light the charcoal and then I'm cooking. It's just, it's a wonderful thing. And people, really, until they get them, they don't really understand how powerful these things are. And I've actually done a couple of videos showing people that sous-videing and then, using the sous-vide to sear. And I've done it in the house. I do it on a pan. But, they always you're going to burn your house down. It's like, it's concentrated. It's just like taking a Searsall, except you got a lot more power than a Searsall. So.
Right. I've seen your videos, Darren, and I think it's really good. I don't use a grate in a pan like you do. I use a ceramic stone.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen any of the videos that I've done where I'm?
Yeah. And I tell people you can do that as well. I just tell them, don't try to do it on a cutting board or
Right.
Make sure you're being smart about it, but don't do it on top of a stove. I mean, just, do it. Just, you got to be, smart. You can't, throw the thing all around and just, make sure that the fire's within that pan. So, but I don't do that a lot anyway. I do most of my searing outside, but I did it mostly just to show people you can use those inside. They are powerful, but they, especially the GrillGun, it's more concentrated, so you can control it. You can control it with the knob and the handle, so just like you, I've seen some of your videos when you use it for sous vide. I use the control on the knob more than I do, the full blast on the handle, so.
Yeah, when you're inside, you need to be using the knob because well, you can do it both ways. I'll do it both ways inside. And I'm more comfortable using the pulse grip on that to give it full force because I am shooting it at a ceramic stone.
Right.
If I shoot it into a pan, it's going to fold back on me, and I don't want that.
So why don't you hold the GrillGun up and just kind of walk through, from toe to tip and just kind of point through what it is. Just so for those who haven't seen one, make sure you check out my videos on my YouTube channel if you haven't seen the GrillGun, because I have several. I've done demos of it, even the prototype, but I've got several where I use it to light my grills as well. Go ahead, Bob. Just kind of walk through the whole thing.
So here's a GrillGun. Somebody decided to call
it plays music.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Someone else had to call. So here we go. This is the GrillGun, and this is the Su-VGun. You can see here. I'll set it this way so you can see it's shorter. Right there.
Yep, a little more compact.
Yep, it's the same size handle. I mean, the gun handle themselves are the same. One says Su-VGun, one says GrillGun. But the substantial difference between the two visually is the length of the barrel, and then if you look at the front of them, they look different. The Su-VGun right here has what I call a focusing plate right in front. And the GrillGun doesn't. It doesn't have that. And I've had some people actually, sorry about that. Some people ask me, can I make both of them, can I modify the Su-VGun somehow in order to make it do a GrillGun? And the answer is no. They really are designed for two different purposes. And I'll just use the Su-VGun and talk about that here. Here's a picture of it. So from tip to toe, right here, the front of it, the fire bell itself, to the fuel can that's connected to the gun on the bottom here. It's a torch that has two different valves on it. So it gets its fuel from the propane tank, and this knob right here on top, if you turn it, you're going to get gas flowing through the gun. And if you pull this finger trigger right here, you'll get a clicking sound. It's like, firing the bullet, but there's no bullet. All it does is it creates a spark here inside the fire bell. So if you turn on the gas like this, and you pull the trigger, you get fire, just like that. And that's just down very low. And what's really unique about the Su-VGun is how low the fire is and how pure it's burning. You can see that it's just a pure blue flame. And if I turn it way up, it's just much more pure blue flame. And then this handle right here is a squeeze handle, and you squeeze it like this with your hand, squeeze the handle, it'll throw the fire right out. So the design of the Su-VGun is to create as hot a flame as you can get coming out of here, because that's the purpose of searing your meat. It's not a long flame. It's only about 16 inches long from the time it exits the bell to the end of the flame. Now, don't put your hand here because it's really hot. It's about 3,000 degrees right there. But the grill gun is another almost foot longer. So it uses more fuel. The grill gun uses more fuel, about a third more fuel in the same amount of time as the Su-VGun does. And the Su-VGun has this focusing plate in order to do two things. One of them is to create a narrow focused flame front that if you're searing meat, you're sort of painting with it, if you will. And you can direct the flame exactly where on the meat you want it to go. The grill gun is so much more fire coming out of it that it you can't use it indoors. If you do, you're gonna catch your house on fire, and that's not a good thing, right?
Yeah, it's really hard to control. I know. I never even tried to use the grill gun inside. Even when you sent me the prototype before the Su-VGun prototype came out, I knew that it was much too powerful to try to use, inside. But it was perfect for putting on top of your grill grates and searing. So
yeah, you put a steak out there on your grill grates and you use the grill gun, you're going to throw a ton of heat. And actually, everybody, if you haven't seen Darren's videos on the comparison of the grill gun and the Su-VGun, I guess it was the grill gun and the TS8000.
I did one against all three too. I did one with the Su-VGun, the grill gun, and the TS8000.
So here, I'll fire this one up and you can see how it's not as blue. It's got yellow flame. It's because it's not as clean on the low end. But then when you turn it up, it really starts to roar. So, yeah. And so the big difference in the grill gun and the Su-VGun is that when you are out in your on your cooker, I'll stand back so you can see it. You have much more reach. The flame goes 2 feet past the gun, and the gun itself gives you the ability to reach out. So when you're lighting charcoal, let's say lump charcoal, which is what I prefer to use over the briquettes, which has binders in it and can flavor the food as well. But the lump charcoal is just real wood that's just been charred until it's been heated until it's become charcoal. And when you're lighting lump charcoal, it's got all of the water and sap and bugs and stuff like that was in the wood originally, and that all basically becomes a 4th of July party. And yeah, you get sparks flying off of that.
It sparks up a lot. Yeah, I mean, I use mostly lump, so that it does, and that's having that extra reach is crucial when you're you got all those sparks coming in. And some of the lump charcoal has got more of that than others, because a lot of times it's not fully carbonized, so you'll get more of the sparks because of that. So it's good to have that reach.
So that's what the grill gun is designed to throw so much fire out and so much heat right out, basically about a foot away from the end of the gun, that it gives you your head and your hand and your fuel tank and all that are a long ways away from the fire that you're creating, and it's very safe to operate. But if you try to go into the kitchen and sear meat with this, you're doing this number on your countertop, and it's just ungainly. Whereas if you're using a sous-vide and you're at your countertop, you're holding it down, the bell's the same thing. It's now very manageable to sear your meat, whether you're on the grill or you're in the house on a cooking stone or a grill grate of some sort.
Yeah.
So
I get people all the time that will ask me, which one should I buy? Because, some people don't want to have both because, that's double the expense. But, and I always tell them it depends on what you do more of, lighting your grill or searing sous vide. If it's where you light your grill a lot more than you sear with the torch, then get the grill gun, and then just when you want to use it to sear, put it out on your grill and sear it out there. If you cook more indoors sous vide and you sear inside more, then get the sous vide gun, because you can always light your grill with it. It's just you got to hold your arm a little bit farther. So
right.
Yeah.
I had a guy just today, almost not a week goes by that I don't have 2 or 3 people ask me that same question. They always want to know, well, I can't afford to buy both of them. Although honestly, the most popular one is the sous vide gun, followed by the combination,
Yeah.
Because people either want both of them, they recognize that they're best of both worlds, or they really are. There's just a lot more cooks in this world than there are people that barbecue or charcoal grill. I mean, just if you think about it, everybody cooks, and sous vide is so popular. Sous vide cooking is such a great way to fix food that it's a natural thing that I'm going to sell more sous vide guns than I would grill guns. But right behind the sale of sous vide guns is the sale of the combos, because people recognize that they're not the same. Even though they look very similar, they really don't do one another's job the best. So
yeah. And I think a lot of times too, you probably have more buying the sous vide gun, because the sous vide gun is a lot more different than that Harbor Freight cheap thing that a lot of the barbecue guys use already. And, they don't want to spend more money. They say, well, I'll buy 10, Harbor Freight ones. If they're just using it to light their grill, they'll do that. But the people that are using it for sous vide they're not going to drag that big Harbor Freight thing around where you have to tie it to a 30-gallon, propane tank. And then, it might break on you and all that. The sous vide gun makes a lot more sense for people that are going to use it for sous vide for sure, and also light their gun. But like you said, they're both purpose driven, but you can use them both for both. But it's just, I always tell people, whatever you're going to use it the most for, buy that one, because you can do both with it. But if you're going to be inside searing most of the time with it, get the smaller one, because it's a lot more flexible in that sense. So
yeah, you can throw either of them into your trunk and go on a camp out or go to the lake. They're
right.
just really, really convenient. I'm an outdoors person. I love, camping. I like going to the lake. The grill gun, you don't just have to use it to light your charcoal. You can take it there. I live on a farm. I have an incinerator. I light my incinerator. I just went through pasture burning this about 2 months ago for this spring. I have got a whole list of things that I use a torch for instead.
Oh, yeah. Fireplace, fire pits, just about anything you need to light fire with. I mean, the thing is great. I mean, so we saw both of the products now, and people who didn't know them are kind of intrigued. I want to get into now how this all came about, because you designed it. We kind of touched on how you put the prototypes together. What made you look at crowdfunding? And let's talk about your experience using Kickstarter and Indiegogo, because I've seen several products. Some of them have been successful, some of them have failed. It just seems like some of them have been a really long process, like the meter thermometer. They had a big long wait of when they first started their Kickstarter to when they finally started delivering product. So let's talk about that a little bit, because you were, baptized by fire, literally, no pun intended.
Yeah. So when my background again is in engineering and in business, and so I had a product and I had a manufacturer that I could use to make it, but nobody's ever seen something like this before. And the big question is would it sell? And even though they would say to themselves, I'd buy one, that's not a justification for a bank or for investment capitalist of any sort to pony up enough money to be able to go into manufacturing. So if I were doing something that had to do with IP or a medical device, money would just be readily available for something new like that. But something like the grill gun, I could not land the extensive amount of money that I had to have in order to actually build a low, even though you might think that this is expensive at about $140 for the set, it's cheaper than like a combination of a TS8000 and a Sears altogether. It's far better machine, and yet it has to be manufactured in high volume in order to be able to get the cost down. You have to scale it right out of the chute. So I knew how much it was going to cost to manufacture it, and I just couldn't raise that kind of capital. But I was told over and over again that, have you tried doing Kickstarter? And I had never considered it because I didn't know how to do a Kickstarter campaign. So that was in January of 2017. I said, all right, I'm going to look at Kickstarter and figure out how to do a Kickstarter campaign. And so in February of that, the next month, I'd spent a lot of time learning about how to do a Kickstarter campaign. And I realized that I just had a ton of stuff to learn. And almost, Darren, this is amazing. My Kickstarter campaign, at the time that I ran it, there had been, since Kickstarter's inception in 2009, there had been 318,000 Kickstarter campaigns that preceded mine. And 80% of those never make the money that they need to make in order to be able to do what they say they're going to do. 80% of them. And only 1% of them ever make the money that only 1% of that 318,000 ever reach six figures in revenue. And so I'm looking at, how am I going to raise six figures in revenue when 99% of the programs out there don't make it? And so here I am, I'm needing, I've got a design, I've got the manufacturing, I've got everything that I need. And it looks like it's going to be impossible to do something quick on Kickstarter. So I just applied myself and said, all right, look at the best campaigns that are out there, figure out what they do, why they're successful, what did they need to accomplish. And so I just studied really hard for several weeks, and I started modeling my campaign after the best campaigns that I could find, the most successful campaigns. And I tell anybody who wants to run a Kickstarter campaign to do exactly what I did, is just focus on who was successful, and focus on it as though you're the consumer, the consumer that says, I might be interested in this product. I mean,
yeah, it's a big risk to pony up your money, especially if it's over, let's say, $50. Okay. I've seen plenty of Kickstarters that I said, that looks cool, but I don't know if I want to spend, $150 out of my own money and roll the dice and then have to wait 6 months to a year before I'm going to get the product. Maybe, And I followed a couple. One of them was actually a sous vide machine that they started in like the beginning of 2017, and they finally started delivering product towards the end of last year. And they had a lot of problems. I mean, they hit their goals right away as far as sales goals. I mean, they got their money like really quick, but it was the development stage that dragged out, and they had all kinds of issues in manufacturing, and they spent a lot of money, you know, in the R&D and development after the fact, you know, trying to get the product mass produced the right way. And they finally started delivering product, and now they're out of product, and I don't know if they're going to be able to, you know, continue on, but I hope they do. But and then, like I said, meter, the little, you know, internal thermometer that you can use that monitor it with your phone. That was another one that took, you know, 2.5 to 3 years to actually start delivering product. So you got to look at that stuff when you see those type of Kickstarters. You go, do I want to wait that long for something like this? But yours was, I really liked the product. I tested. I was one of the few that actually got to touch it and use the prototype, so I knew it was going to be something I really wanted. So I did invest in that, and I felt really good about it. But I have to commend you for the short amount of time that got you know, got it in everybody's hands. I mean, I can't really believe you did it so well, so quick, especially with all the stuff that was going on towards the end, where you had those protests in Hong Kong and Shanghai that slowed you down. But now with the COVID, I mean, it's even worse, but you got it like right in that window. But I mean, I was really surprised how quick you got it done.
So here we are, almost 1 year, no, 11 months since I launched the Kickstarter campaign. Can you believe that? 11 months.
It's been a year since you were on the podcast. It's about a year since I started the podcast and you and Troy were on. But I was just thinking about that too. Yeah.
So the reason it worked for me was because I really had already designed the product. I knew how I was going to manufacture it. I knew what it was going to cost. And I had studied Kickstarter campaigns in order to be able to understand what it would take to be successful. And so then I had to go to people who were influencers in the marketplace that already had a substantial following on YouTube and in podcasts and in written product, and give them product and ask for their endorsement. And when I had enough of that lined up, then I knew that the Kickstarter campaign would be successful. And so it's really unheard of to go from figuring out how to spell Kickstarter in February to being completed with one of the most successful Kickstarter campaigns in Kickstarter's history. I mean, in the top 0.04 percentile. And it was, so that's what, February, March, April, May, June, those 5 months, February, March, April, May, and June, from the time that I decided to learn how to spell Kickstarter to the time I was done with the program. And it really just goes, it's a testament to the quality of the people, including you, who helped show the prototypes to the public. T-Roy, who was great, you know, he's the very first one to come out back in April, a year ago now, and say, you know, when this guy runs his Kickstarter campaign, you're going to have to pay attention to this. So it was that level of support that anybody who wants to run a Kickstarter campaign, they really need to reach out to people who already have audiences and already have credibility, and establish credibility with those folks. If you do that, then people who lend you credibility, Darren, for your show and your honesty and sincerity with people, if you tell them to try something, they're going to listen to you. And so whether you do it on YouTube or in print media or whatever mode that you choose to take, you got to be really sincere and absolutely transparent and honest. I mean, that's the thing that makes it.
You got to have a good idea and a good, you know, base product, but you also got to pick the right people that A lot of the ones that you hit, like Troy and stuff, are like that. They only use stuff that they actually believe in, and they only, I use Camp Chef, pellet grills because I really love the product. Before I even, reached out to them to try to work with them, I really love the product. Kamado Joe, the same way. I really love the product before I even started trying to talk to them. That's how I work. I don't just take things. So the people that follow me and that follow Guga and Troy and some of the others that you reached out to know that it's not just about promoting product because I got a free thing this week. It's because we really believe it, and I can show somebody the whole benefits. And I get comments all the time on my videos, and when I do a review of something, people go, you go into detail, you explain why you like it. It's not just a Ford versus Chevy thing. I like it because it's this, because it says Camp Chef on it. I actually go into the whole reasons and why it's a better product. So, but yeah, and the GrillGun Su-VGun definitely is top notch. I was one of the guys that got talked into getting a Searsall, because I used to watch Guga, when he first started doing it, and I said, "Oh, that's pretty cool." But like you said, you're paying $50 for the TS 8000. You're paying $75 for the Searsall, just a little attachment, and it has no power to it. It takes you still 15 minutes to sear a steak, So
right, you demonstrated in one of your videos how you can sear a steak in, I think it was 15 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
Early
And
on.
I got that
7
Searsall.
minutes.
I got the Searsall, and I think I used it 3 times, and I'm like, why'd I just spend $100 on this thing,
Yeah.
But I've never had that feeling with the Su-VGun or the GrillGun. I mean, it works. It does exactly what it's supposed to. It's super powerful. It's well built. It's going to last me a long time, and it looks cool.
Yeah. I was talking to one guy, an attorney that I was interviewing to see whether or not I wanted to have him on my team. And so he was holding it and he was looking at it, and I said, "Would you buy one of these?" And he said, "Absolutely, I would." And I said, "Okay, well, if I make it pink and kind of look like a Bic Reach, would you buy one?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Well, why not?" And he says, "Because I think the gun looks cool." And that's just it. I mean, it's kind of a man toy, but I'm really surprised at how many women buy these. And it's just because it's the most effective tool that you can buy. I mean, anything that you want, creme brulee. If you have any needs that you would use a culinary torch for, it's the same thing. I was showing you how you can turn the flame way down. You don't have to have it run full blast just because you can.
Right. Yeah. And I used to, when I first started doing some of the comparison videos and stuff for you, people would always say, "Why does it have to look like a gun?" They get the people, they just get scared because it looks like a gun. And I kept telling, it's the functionality of it. It's, it looks like a gun because the shape of a gun, it's utilitarian. It does, it shapes your hand just right. It's angled just right. That's why a gun is shaped the way the gun is shaped. So that's why the grill gun works so good, because of the way it's shaped in your hands. And you got the trigger on the bottom on the handle. I mean, it's a pretty much a no-brainer design. It needs to be designed that way to look like a gun. I mean, it can't look like a flower. It can't look like a, it can't look like anything else because of the functionality of it.
And one thing here, I'll show everybody that's looking at it. Right now, this has got all this weight out in front. So you're kind of holding it up with your hand, holding all this weight up. It's light to begin with. It's not heavy, but the weight's out front. And in the grill gun, there's more weight out front. It's harder to hold it up. But when you put this bottle on the bottom of it here, it changes the center of gravity and puts it back in your hand and allows it to naturally angle down the way you would use it to light a grill. So the ergonomics associated with it, it's just as you're saying, it needs to be that shape. If it's not that shape, then it's not going to be functional. And if it is that shape, then make it look like something that is that shape.
Right. Yeah. Just, and I don't know why people get, that stuck in their head that, why does it gotta, what difference does it make what it looks like? It functions, it does what it's supposed to do, and it's phenomenal, and it's a high quality product. So you got through the whole Kickstarter. I mean, one of the fastest, from kicking it off to delivering it into people's hands to raising funds. I mean, everything about it went pretty smooth. As far as I could see on my side, you were pulling your hair out a few times, I'm sure, behind the scenes. But to us that were part of the Kickstarter, it went really smooth, especially, like I said, from some of the other Kickstarter projects that I watched or, I had heard about, problems. But so now that you went through all that, how are the supply lines and all that now with what's going on with the COVID-19 and all the import problems and issues going on?
Well, I was fortunate enough to be ahead of the curve. The first container load that I had shipped out of the manufacturer was on the water before anybody knew about COVID, or what was called the coronavirus. And so I got product in about the same time that China was shutting down. And so I was able to fulfill all of the Kickstarter campaigns pledges and keep my promise to those people. There were some delays, and the people that were in the Kickstarter and Indiegogo camps, they understood that, and they were pretty much amazed that the delays were as minimal as they were. To be able to go from startup of manufacturing to product delivered inside of 6 months, they were very happy about. And so I bought the first container load with enough quantity left over to start selling on my website at GrillBlazer.com directly, with more product already being manufactured. And there's another container load on the water right now. It'll be here in a couple of weeks. So I'm not going to have any difficulty in keeping my supplies up, because I went with a really good quality manufacturer, taught them how to do it. I spent 5 weeks in China on 2 different trips over there, developing the supplier, the supply chain, the equipment, the manufacturing processes, turning it into 100%, 100% quality inspected. Everyone that goes out the door is fired up, has a bottle of propane screwed onto it, turned on, fired, checked, just for the final functionality. To say nothing of the automatic testing procedures that go inside, go on inside in the manufacturing, where they're pressured up 3 different times during the stage with just air, with very sensitive machines tracking to make sure that it's sealed and it's not going to leak, because I had to make a torch that won't leak. That's another thing that we didn't talk about, is all of those cheap torches that you can buy, they come with instructions to how to tighten them up and replace this and replace that. I just had to build something that would work and not need to be repaired, except for through a service center. So the supply chain really is I got it set up before there was this pandemic. Sales on this side are obviously weak right now because people don't have jobs. People are stuck in their homes. But it's a great product from that standpoint, because it's the perfect stay-at-home product. What can you do while you're locked up in your house? That the real difference is it's so expensive to make one. People perceive the cost is high. I had one guy today say, why it should be priced at $50. Well, maybe it should be, but it can't be, because it costs more than that to make it.
Right. Yeah. Oh, Mercedes should only cost $20,000, right?
Yeah. If you can get a Mercedes for $20K, go for it. But you're not going to.
Right.
And so I'm sorry, it's not for everybody, because not everybody can reach out and grab $140 when they don't have a job. And I really
Right.
do understand that people are hurting. I'm hurting,
Yeah.
everybody is through this.
Well, and you're always going to have people, even when they're not hurting, that are going to be those price conscious people, because it's the same people that you have on, on the Kamado Joe, Facebook groups a lot. And, those are, 7, 8, 12, $1,500 grills, and people aren't used to paying, $800 plus for a grill. They can go to Home Depot or Lowe's and buy a cheap, char griller, for, 150 bucks. And that's what they compare it to. But it's like comparing a Lamborghini to a Kia Sophia. Yeah, they both drive, but they're totally different things, so. And I tell people that all the time, maybe I'm buying a $800 grill because I know I'm going to have that thing for 20 plus years, and maybe, give it to my kid when he's older. It's not something that's going to rust out and I'm buying a new one every year and a half or 2 years. It's the same concept with that. Yeah, I can buy a Harbor Freight torch for 30 bucks, but it's going to be a piece of crap that's only going to last me a year and fall apart, and it's not safe, and it doesn't do half the stuff that the grill gun does. So.
Yeah, like take for instance this. You've used yours quite a bit, Darren. I'm sure of it.
Oh yeah.
The finish on here, the finish on this, on the shaft, the finish on all of the parts here, they're not going to rust. I mean, you know that. You can't run a grill, you can't run a weed torch more than one time before you burn off the zinc finish that's on it, and now it starts to rust and it looks like garbage.
Right.
So, but the trouble that I went through to design something that would take the heat and actually operate and never look bad. Well, never is not exactly true, because I've had people set them down when they're hot on their plastic, block of some sort, and it melts the plastic right to the bell. Well, I shouldn't have done that, but that's just user error. If you just use the gun and use the stand that I send each gun out with, to where you can just set it in the bottle stand where it'll cool down the bell, you'll never have any trouble with the finish. And never's a relative term. I mean, I just mean 4 years. You'll have years and years of enjoyment of it. So it's not really a good product from a designed obsolescence standpoint.
Yeah.
It makes more sense to sell $20 somethings that people have to buy every 3 months than it does to sell $140 something that you don't have to sell again. But my approach on that was give people high quality, and people will recognize it and reward you for it. They'll enjoy it. They'll tell their friends about it,
and they'll love it. They'll cherish it, and it'll be something that they're going to be proud to own. I mean, how many people are going to be proud to own a crappy, rusty looking weed torch? I wouldn't, that's for sure. Well, Bob, I want to thank you for being on. It's about time for us to wrap it up. I want to make sure everybody goes to GrillBlazer.com and checks out Bob's website. You can buy the Su-VGun and the grill gun and the combo packs and accessories on GrillBlazer.com. And you can also check out, he's got links to some of my videos, Guga from Sous Vide Everything, also Troy Smith from Troy Cooks, and a few others on there. So showing you can go to my YouTube channel, Fire and Water Cooking, and I've got plenty of videos about the Sous Vide gun and the grill gun on that as well. You definitely will not be, you'll definitely be impressed with it, and you will not be sorry if you invest in a grill gun or a sous vide gun. They're very high quality. They do exactly what they're supposed to. They're very powerful. There's nothing on the market like them. So anything else you want to add, Bob? Anything else you got coming in the works that you're going to, maybe promote as well?
No, not at this time. My focus really is on being able to, I expected by this time to be making some more announcements, but the COVID pandemic has kind of changed the timing on this. So it's a little premature to make any other announcements. I appreciate your giving me the opportunity to do it, but I'm not ready to at this point. I do want to say thank you again, Darren, for having me on and let me talk about this.
Well, I want to thank you for
I
letting me be
appreciate
a
it very
part of.
much. And
Yeah, I want to thank you for letting me be a part of trying it out, and definitely, like I said, when I first got the prototype and started playing with it, it really got me excited, and that I haven't swayed on it. I mean, everything that you've done as far as with the prototype, putting the thing together, the Kickstarter, how the Kickstarter campaign went, I've been 100% impressed. So it's something I know you really care about. You put your all into it, and I have no problem backing somebody that puts everything he's got into something. And I know that's you, Bob.
well, thanks very much.
Well, I
All
hope
right.
to
Well,
see
have
you
a
again
good night.
soon. I hope to see you again soon. Everybody check out GrillBlazer.com. Check out the Grill Gun and Su-VGun. And thanks again, Bob. We'll see you on the next one.